Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the HAWX space program. While we were all busy watching the Minmus project, the guys at the spaceplane hangar have been busy. They've designed this thing they call a jet turbine, or jet engine as some like to call it. They decided to give it a test just to show the guys at the VAB that they're still in the game. The numbers they got out of this thing were much more than they expected. The amount of thrust they were able to get out of these things was pretty amazing. They had other tests of other jet turbines they had created, but their numbers just didn't satisfy them, or they ended up in explosions, which everyone loves, but that's not exactly what they were looking for. They didn't want to be killing any Kerbals while they were flying at 10,000 meters above the surface. But they decided they had a pretty good test there, and so they throttled it down, and they decided to put one of these into one of their aircraft, and this is what they got. The Curb Dart 3. It's essentially one of those jets on the back of this craft. They went back to the main lift wings in front of the takeoff wings, but unfortunately, the jet engine was so heavy that it actually, the first design there, it tipped over on its tail. But they finally got it right with some landing gear changes, and Bill is talking to the tower saying he's ready to go right there, and so they firewall, red line, I don't know what you call that, the throttle, and that thing takes off so quickly they really didn't know, they really weren't expecting it. And yeah, you can see here that we actually have Bill and Bob with our crew. Bill's filling in for Jebediah while he's still on medical leave, because even though he really wants to be flying this thing right now, it's mock effects there. Those are really cool. Even though he would really like to be out flying this thing right now, the doctors tell him, hey, he can't risk the high G-forces that this thing would probably put on his body. The aircraft was actually quite nimble, Bob figured out as he pulled around. They did pull some high Gs there. Luckily, they have these things called G-suits they discovered from the rocket guys. They pressurized the legs to keep blood up into the body. Before they did this, and they actually had these things called G-suits that would squeeze their legs and keep the blood up in their body, like they just said. Pilots would actually have to tense up their lower body to try to keep blood from draining out of their head, which you'll hear about blackouts sometimes and high G-force. And that's when all the blood runs out of the head and you pass out because the brain can't operate. Bill's having a little bit of fun here, buzzing the KSC, but here's also the opposite effect of a readout, which if you're pulling strong negative G's, blood rushes to the head and you get not even lightheaded. It's a weird feeling. If you ever hang upside down, you kind of get that feeling, and your vision actually reds out because all the blood is rushing to your head. But it's interesting stuff. But they've discovered things to help protect them against those G-forces. More of the blackouts than the redouts, but usually you're dealing with stronger positive Gs than you are strong negative Gs. After doing some controllability checks, Bob calls back to the tower and asks if he can just go all out in this thing, and they give him the go-ahead, so he just floors it, hypothetically speaking. You can't really floor a jet. You push the throttle all the way up, but he does that and he gets some pretty awesome numbers. The jet is a bit sketchy through here, he says, through these beginning Mach numbers as you're pushing through into Mach, and you're getting all these Mach effects, because what happens is when you hit Mach, at first what the air actually hits the front of the wing and bubbles out around the wing and actually can miss the control surfaces completely, and you'll actually get a stall in that case because you're actually not getting the correct airflow over the wing. But once you do break Mach, that air kind of snaps back around in less of a bubble, more of a cone, which is where you actually get the shock wave. The shock wave is just that cone hitting you whenever you are watching something go supersonic. But right here, they actually go so fast they start getting heating that they see in re-entry, and Bill automatically throttles down because he doesn't want to have any issues with things exploding. And he goes back to the tower and says, "This thing performs way better than we really expected it to ever perform." But as he's turning around to, he stalls it. They don't have great experience with stalling aircraft because they've not had any aircraft that have been this maneuverable yet. They've had very few aircraft, in fact, considering this is only the Curb Dart 3. But one of the best ways to actually pull out of a stall is to just floor it. Put your throttle all the way up and just kind of let the craft do its thing. Try to get the nose pointed in the direction of travel. But as you can see, we're in a flat spin, which is kind of tricky to deal with. Unfortunately, the first revision of this, they didn't have the ejector seats, other way around, ejector seats in them, so Bob was screaming at Bill to make sure don't crash it, because they aren't recovering from, they aren't going to be able to just punch out and parachute down to the surface. But I think right about here he gets it. He actually pulls the nose back, and the craft starts actually heading in the direction he wants. The trickiest thing about a flat spin stall is that your craft is not pointing in any direction of travel at any time, so it's really hard to recover. You have to actually stop the spinning before you can really recover from it. But here again, Bill decides to firewall the throttle and let it go. They want to see how high they can get instead of just how fast they can get, because there goes that sonic shock wave. But anyways, they are really hoping that they can take some jobs away from the vehicle assembly building. The guys over at the rockets, they want to be able to send their own. Oh, and we have a jet stall out because they ran out of air there. But they want to take some jobs away from them. They want to be able to send their own crew up. They don't want to have to be relying on the guys at the spaceplane hangar anymore. Anyways, that was pretty successful. No stalls, nothing really bad happens. So we're here on final approach. The one issue with this jet is it's so fast that even when you're only about one tick, you still have a lot of thrust coming out of that thing. And so coming in here really fast, and Bill tries to get it down and bounces it a couple times, and it wants to just head right back up the minute it touches down. Ooh, and he does again. So the tower just tells him to go around. There's no point in trying to get that thing down and risking running into the ocean. Ideally, what you want to do whenever you fly an aircraft and come down for a landing is to get as close to your stall speed as possible. Coming in here again, going a bit slower this time. But yeah, you want to get down to your stall speed and not quite hit it until you're right over the runway and want to touch down. You kind of flare the nose, and that kind of sets the craft down. That's not so much true with jets anymore because the way we're able to, or the most modern aircraft, because of the way we're able to change the design of the wings. You can have a lot lower stall speeds and things like flaps and speed spoilers, not speed spoilers, but spoilers that kind of push the aircraft down into the runway. You don't have to worry about that as much anymore, but back when they didn't have anything to change the shape of the wings, that's what they had to do. But Bill does get it touched down right here, get it in, gets it stopped, yes. And so they decide, well, what if we throw some of these solid rocket boosters on this thing? Unfortunately, I did end up losing sound from this because my recording software is sometimes stupid like that. So we won't be hearing any more sound other than my beautiful voice. You guys know you like it. They're just kidding. I don't even like my voice. But yeah, they threw some solid rocket boosters on it. That's so when the jet stalls out, they can kick these on. They want to just throw rocket motors onto these, liquid fuel rocket motors. But unfortunately, they were too heavy at the time for a small aircraft like this, and they are working on technology to have a jet that can turn into a rocket, but that hasn't come along yet. So here they are, they fire the booster, and they get quite a bit of acceleration. They get really kicked back in their seats, and yeah. Bill's trying to keep the nose pointed relatively in the direction of travel because you don't really want to spin out. Unfortunately, he fails. He tries to pull back and he stalls the aircraft again. And Bob is yelling at him again. So, ooh, yeah, we're getting all dizzy right there as we're flipping around, just waiting for the solid rocket boosters to die out. And once again, we're in a flat spin. Well, oh, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. We will be. They come back down, and their jet starts to reignite, and Bill pulls up too hard again at high speeds, and yep, we're in a flat spin again. Unfortunately, yep, we're in fast forward time, so we're getting really dizzy. I try my hardest to pull out of this thing, and it just doesn't want to do anything. This time we do have the ejector seats installed, so that little yellow thing, if you hit the abort button, yep, but we get, nope, not quite. Come on, Bill, come on, you can do it. Oh, come on, Bill. Essentially, what I do to get out of a flat spin, I found, at least at these longer wings, you start rocking your wings back and forth. And what that'll do is kind of, if you get them sideways a little bit, it'll kind of act like a rudder. Essentially what your rudders are supposed to be doing, but for some reason they're not. Probably because I have that weird V. You get them tilted up and it stops the flat spin. And usually from there you can go full throttle and it'll allow you to get out of that. As I was flying back to the Space Center, I couldn't help but look at these awesome interiors. They had the cool computers here, and actually since then I've actually installed a mod that will allow me to look at the different things on their screens, not just this small list of things. You can look at your climb rate, all those speed, all those cool things. And these B9 cockpits are just amazing. I really hope he continues to work with these with this mod, and he still hasn't technically updated it to 0.23, but there's been plenty of fixes out that allows the game to work properly. So once again, we're on our final towards the runway, and ooh, that's really bright. I've actually brightened up the game a little bit, so some of the menu stuff might look a little weird, but it makes the game look better overall. And so Bill, learning from his other landing attempts, gets it set down. Oh, nope, he still bounces it. And up there we are. Brakes. Come on, yep, there go the brakes. He gets it set down, and once again, Bill and Bob make it back alive. So they decided to go for another attempt here. This time with the solid rocket boosters on radial decouplers on the wings, hoping that once they're done, they can ditch that extra weight. And you notice they're pointed up a little bit. That's only because when in the vehicle assembly building, they were saying that the thrusts would push the aircraft's nose. I guess it'd be up, because you see the nozzles are pointed up a little bit. The point is that when you have them around the rocket, they'll kind of push inwards and kind of stabilize the rocket. At least that's the concept. But it doesn't seem to do that. As you can see here, it wants to push the nose up still. It's because of how I have those angled. So any more revisions of this will not have them like that. This works out a lot better. He is able to keep the nose fairly straight. No stalls this time. It wants to rock back and forth, which a lot of aircraft in Kerbal Space Program want to do that. They always want to roll in one direction. And I also, the other ones, I limited the thrust. That's right, the guys in the space plane hangar decided they wanted to limit the thrust because they thought they don't want to have these things. They wanted for a longer burn and all that sort of stuff. But it turns out that is actually bad. And so they burn out, and we decide to. I guess I don't decide to. Oh, there they go. There's the solid rocket boosters. And essentially here, at this altitude, it doesn't matter too much if you keep the aircraft pointed in a certain direction. You'll continue on that heading. You'll slow down faster because you're still having. Oh yes. And then, as I try to bring this thing down, another stall. Bill, you're killing us here. And so he tries really hard, but at only about 1,000 meters off the ground, there's not much you can do. And they eject. And where are their parachutes? Kerbal Space Program, wake up! Where are our parachutes? Come on! Oh, well, I call shenanigans, and I say our recording data was just lost, and they're out there in the wilderness just trying to survive at this point, and I'm looking at all the data and going, what on earth happened? So, and I even go back to the craft, and what the heck, nothing's broken. Something should be broken on this. Why is nothing broken? So I call shenanigans, and I'm not going to call them dead. Unfortunately, that's about all the time we have to do anything right now. I am going to try to keep these episodes closer to 20 minutes because that seems to be about the sweet zone, butter zone for people watching videos. 30 minutes just is on the edge. I might go out to 30 minutes depending on how much video footage I have. But I've run out of video footage. So stuff to look forward to the next time. We are going to get back into rockets. They really want to start sending more rockets to Minmus, and we might have some surprise appearances, and you'll just have to tune in next time. But until next time, guys, I will see you guys later.